Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about American influence on Australian culture. I have no gripes against Americans at all. In fact, I really like how much Americans really love their freedoms and how much they stand for Christianity and Jesus. However, one thing I won't stand for is the erosion of Australian culture, namely our accent and our language. This has been an ever-increasing problem, especially in the last 15 years, and it breaks my heart that Australia is not the country that it once was. Although it goes back much further than that, as far back as 1950. I will highlight what I believe to be the most significant points from 1950 to now to determine what the root cause of Australia being plagued with Americanness was. Comparatively, Australia was really late to the television industry, having only been introduced to television on the evening of the 16th of September 1956. Welcome to television on TSN 9 in Sydney, followed by HS7 in Melbourne. Conversely, Americans were much more seasoned TV professionals, with the industry starting in 1927 in America and in the UK in 1936. This is why many American producers and television hosts sought to come to Australia. The early Australian television industry was very weak. We had many American TV hosts come across during the 60s. For example, Bob Dwyer, Dolly Dyer on Pickerbox, and Tommy Hanlon. So Australian TV was America-centric from the beginning, which is a shame. Australian TV didn't really come into its own until the late 1980s, but by that time you already had an entire generation that had grown up on purely American television. This was confirmed by the then Prime Minister Robert Menzies, who said, "The influence of America on Australian habits and speech is, of course, obviously, largely as the result of the moving pictures in the earlier days, and still to an extent to television and what have you, and the vocabulary Australia tends to be garnished with American expressions. The influence of America on Australian habits and speech. Our habits of mind are pretty deep down in us, and I think it will take a long time before the instinctive process of thought derived from Great Britain are altered." Would Menzies have guessed that it would have taken 70 years? Australia is truly unrecognisable. Here are some examples of shows. 1961 to 1969, ICBY, Tommy Hanlon Jr., an American stand-up comedian, went on Australian television. Americans Bob and Dolly Dyer's Pickerbox. The Don Lane Show from 1975 to 1983. These were all American hosts. And also on Channel 9, Hey Hey It's Saturday, 1971 to 1994. So to conclude, I talk of Britishness as in the reality, Australianness never really had a chance to develop. So naturally, the last cohesive culture Australia had was British. I am open to that evolving into a distinctly Australian culture, but I want to bypass this dark age of culture in Australia that we're in the middle of. It's just, I know how great Australia could be. This vague sense of Britishness may very well be a part of that. Maybe even an integral part. But it shouldn't overshadow Australia as the nation of a beacon of light and hope, as it should be.